So we're working on the intake flange that I talked about making into the fender. So I've got my flat plate here, and this is going to be bolted to the fender, inside the fender there. And then this flange piece, this matches the mass airflow meter. So I'm going to have to come in here and make a piece of tubing. So I'm having to cut 3-inch exhaust pipe, and I pie cut it in, well, I don't know what you call it. I cut it in 3s, and I'm going to try to make it round, fit in that. This one's a little bit wonky. Doesn't look bad on camera, but these are a little pinched in. This one's looking better. So it just kind of falls into place and doesn't deform the rubber ring there. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to do a little more smacking on this guy, get it a little bit rounder, and we'll try to weld these. Something like that is what I'm looking for. Got to weld those 3. And then that will slide under the fender into the engine compartment, and this will flange into the air duct. So the air duct's coming out of the throttle body, going down into the fender well, and this will, I'll probably put some studs on the outside of the fender under the wheel well there, and then this will slide onto those and bolt in. I'm not sure about an airbox yet. So I got my tube welded up. 3 pieces there, and it's pretty round for an intake tube, so you can't really tell. And the biggest thing that I wanted to make sure of is it just literally drops right on this little gasket, and that gasket is specific for the mass airflow meter that I have. So with that in there, mass airflow meter will be right at the end of the fender, and this will stick through the other side. I do feel like I need to leave a little bit of tube through the fender so that I can adapt an airbox to it and have a little flange that the airbox fits in snugly. At this point, it'd be nice to have a 3D printer. I could 3D print a flange and go into a box and, plastic and all that stuff. It's hard to manipulate plastic without a way of printing it now. That's the new common thing. But anyway, I'll get it mocked up, and we'll go from there, see what I come up with. So now you got a little better picture of what I'm looking at here. When we started this part of it, I wanted to make sure I had a radiator hose, so I had 2 bends in the pile there, and I made this little adapter. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make this look a little better, but it's a 90 neck out of the Holley pump there, Holley water pump manifold, and it was fitting just a second ago. It's still a little tight, and it's obviously got to go in a little bit, so I'll have to adapt that in. But we made a radiator hose to fit, and that will go right in. Yeah, that. So I've got a radiator hose, and we looked on and I found the dimensions of the air conditioning pump. It's close, it's really close, but I don't think it'll hit. Obviously, I won't know until I get the pump in, but if I have to, I can trim that hose that way and pull this whole assembly forward a little. You can get a little bit of, you can flatten that bend out a little bit, so it's not that end of the world. The neck down there is going to be interesting as well. I've got to figure out a way to get a hose basically to curl down. Probably use a 90 like that and get it tight. I've got to cut the water. I already cut the water neck off the lower part of the radiator. I also have to change that angle. So just gonna have to do the same I did up here. It took a little bit of finagling and clearing. I had to trim the radiator fan a little bit to get the tube to fit. It's got to still go forward a tiny bit. It's all still in mock-up, so it's loose. And got some tweaking and some adjusting to do. I'll probably trim that a little bit more. It's a little tight. But this is what I was after here. I want to make sure this mass airflow meter fits. And I do plan on cutting into the fender well there and changing that. I didn't like the shape of it. It just didn't look right. I'd also test fit my engine cover, and so far everything is going to work. Still got to modify it and I'm going to go with some coil covers for these valve covers. So I'm going to cut the cover around the AC pump and come up here along the injector lines and cover all that up. So that covers the injectors and the wiring, and I'll buy the coil covers that go over that. And I think that'll clean it up pretty nice. So, got to figure out the right angle for this tube to go in here. It's got to come forward. It's got to come out a little bit more. It's got to come that way, just a touch, so it'll clear it. But also got to hammer that in, so it's going to go in a little bit. It's just I'm fighting for, you know, 1/4 of an inch here and there. It's tight everywhere, but such is the case. I'm doing something like this, so I'm going to rotate that down so you don't see the wiring or anything like that. I'll rotate it like this. It's just I may not be able to do that because now that puts the. It's going to clear. It'll be all right. I was thinking it might put this piece in the way of the radiator tubing routing, so should be okay. Something along those lines. That's probably going to be the flange cut right there. That's all it needs to do is stick out enough. So I'm going to mark that and get it cut. Let's see what we can come up with. So I'm going to make a little room for the fender in the fender here. My whole idea is I'm going to change this opening. I don't like how it's oval. It's not completely perfect. It looks weird, and I don't like it. So I'm going to do away with it. This is the panel I made that goes into the fender. So the filter will attach to here, the airflow meter, and this will bolt to the fender. So I'm going to tighten this hole up. I got to move it forward so that way everything's pushed forward as far as I can get it. And that gives me clearance for my air conditioning pump and the belt drive and all that. So I got to go forward with this a little bit. So I got to hog this out. Then we'll fix this up here. All right, so I got a little notched out here, and this fits nice. It goes into the air tube like I want it. And I'll probably run some bolts through here and weld them to the fender apron there. And I was thinking about welding it to it, but I just don't know if that's the right way to go. If I run some studs out here and run this in, I can make this part of the air box and slide it under the fender and then bolt everything together and just have a single little brace down there. I think that'll be very much enough to hold everything in place. You know, you got hose clamps and the tube and all that too, so that helps support it. And I'll close in this gap around this tube here on the other side to finish it up. So it'll just be this circle here coming through the fender. I really feel like that's kind of the only way I can get a seal here and get this sealed up into the air blocks. This will obviously be trimmed back quite a bit. I just stuck it in there because I didn't know where this is going to land. You know, I could have come up in here. But I want to kind of stay forward in here a little bit, stay away from the tire area. All right, so I've been a little flange up here to house the filter. Just a piece of scrap aluminum that I had laying around. And this is kind of the general consensus. Gonna turn the filter housing in the filter, turn the filter itself in the filter housing when I build it. And when I build the lid, this front edge will just be this mesh. And that will allow fresh air to come in over the filter and be sucked in to the intake there. So I'm going to build something along these lines and turn it. Something like that. I got to go a little lower so I can clear that hood hinge or hood latch. Something along that line to get my angle here. I may need to go in a little further. And I think that'll work. I'll build a little box around that top part there and a removable lid. I'm going to have to come down a little bit lower because that latch is going to hit if I don't. That doesn't move. Well, maybe a little snug right there. Something like this. This is where I'm headed. I gotta make sure I clear that. I didn't realize that stuck out so far. So it'll come down like that. This part's gonna be inside the box, so I gotta figure out, make sure I got enough room there to come out, clear that. Should be all right. Probably be really close. I don't know what designers do to build air boxes. So this is the air box that I come up with and built from a pattern, from a cardboard pattern here. The back side's not cut open yet, but this is where the intake tube will come in and feed air to the engine. And made this little piece here to house this filter. And I'm gonna rivet that in place. Oddly enough, this metal, I'm not sure why, I've never seen sheet metal do it, but it cracked when I bent it on hard 90. Like I said, I've never seen sheet metal do that. This is the only bend it took well, and the rest just broke. So now, annoyingly, I've got to weld all that up. Put a little hole here, and this will bolt to the car, and put a little rubber seal around it like that, and help seal it up. And then the lid here will act also double as a hold down for the filter. And I'll rivet this panel in here to the housing. Probably end up cutting this little lip off straight, and then make a lid that fits on there, and little ears that come up, and just pop rivet that, or not rivet, but riv nut and bolt it on. I may need two in the middle also, but we'll see how sturdy the lid is before I decide that. I can always add those in later. I need to go in and weld this up before I get it closed up too much, and I can't get the tip of the welder in there. So I'm going to do that now, and I'll ground it all down and get it cleaned up and move it on to the next stage. And hopefully by the end of the day, we can get this finished up. So let's get after it. So I had the box in place. It fits nicely. I got a little line here where the top of it is. So it's going to barely just sit on top of that. So I may need to make a little strut brace or something up here, or even over here probably, to keep it off the bumper. But I cut the hole out, and I'm going to patch it with a solid piece, and I've got a hole saw bit that'll be perfect for the size tube that I got. And I'll come in here at an angle and drill it, and that'll be the transition through the fender to the box. Then I'll weld that tube to the fender, and I'll just have to make a lid for it. So let's get this cut out, and we'll go from there. So I got my patch made in there. I got it all welded in, ground out smooth, and went ahead and put some tape on this side. I just took the intake tube off, so it'll run down in here and line up, and I just took a pencil and drew the outline of the tube. I got a little pilot hole drilled, and I'm going to run a big 4-inch diameter hole saw bit there and hog that bad boy out. And hopefully, if my micrometer is right and all my measurements are good, it'll land pretty damn close, if not right on the money. Doubt right on the money, but pretty damn close I'll take. So let's get to drilling. Let's see what we can do. All right, I got my inner fender tube cut, and it's matching really nicely. So it's not much of a gap to weld up. I got the inner tube there cut and fit. I got my hole refilled and recut, and this is where the air box is going to sit. Like I said, I'll have a seal around this area and some bolts. And this is thick enough that I think when I bolt it to it, it won't cause it to pull and pucker the other side of the fender there. I'm probably going to do a little standoff so I have a stop, and that way it'll only tighten up to the screw there. I won't start pulling on it any, but it'll be braced and look something like this once it's all said and done. And then I'll have to figure out a way to make the door open and close so I can get the filter in and out and change it. But that shouldn't be that big a deal. So pretty happy with that. Fit up. It's looking really good. So let's get that welded on and we'll move on. All right, so I got 2 bends in the lid here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the bottom and fold it in. I had to cut the ears off of here, but I'm happy with the way this flange is turning out, because you gotta think about how you're bending your flange first. It's gonna fight me a little bit on this inner one, but I'm gonna spread my adjustable jaw out here a little bit, and that'll help make your box. And that's the real good thing about having these removable ones. You can make smaller bends like that. I can get it really close, if not right on the money. So hopefully we'll get these adjusted, and let's figure that out real quick. This flange is going to be the flange that when this folds in like that, it's going to catch a seal that I got in mind and help seal the lid to the air cleaner box. This one is not going to go completely 90. That'll work. All right, cool. A little trimming there, a little flattening out. Take it over to the table and I'll show you what this is going to be. All right, so this is going to be my top for my air box here. It's a little heavier than I wanted it to be, but you got to work with what you got. I had to dip down the top so I could clear the hood latch assembly. So I got to build a cap for that. And my idea is to the idea is to run. I'm gonna run some bars. I've got some round stock. I'll run through it. That'll all help. I'm gonna put a little ear around here and run that bar through that, so it'll latch in like that. Seal against it here. The bars will double as latching the lid and also pushing against the air filter to keep it where it needs to stay instead of just falling and flopping. And then I'll have some little catches here that you can just pop and latch the lid. There should be plenty strong. So let's get the lid cut, the top for it, and put some bars in it and get this trimmed up. All right, we got the lid complete. Went ahead and welded in the top panel here. And it'll fit like that. I think it'll be just fine. I made it a little thicker because the front edge of this is going to have a screen on it so that it can have a place to draw air. And I didn't want to have it right here or in here because the tire is right in here and it'll splash and whatever garbage flies up off a tire. I wanted to be able to handle all that and keep the water out of the intake. So I'm going to cut a slice in here and we'll mount this mesh I got. And I think I got that from somebody. I don't know, it was in the scrap pile. And we'll go make a little cutout here for that. So she's coming right along. All right, so let's do a little test fit. Put the filter in place. Everything is good there. The lid fits nicely. And that's what I want to prevent the filter from falling out. So I need to figure out how high these metal bars to go across the top. It'll be a trimming. Interesting thing I've figured out is if you put a little bit of soap on your cutoff wheel when you're cutting aluminum, it won't gum up and stick in there. So just happen to have a bar of Irish Spring. Not sponsored, but it smells pretty good. Just run the grinder on a little bit. Take it a second, get a little white ring around it, and that'll keep your aluminum from sticking to it. That's better. That's better. That's much more flush. That's where it's supposed to sit. So now, so that's a 1/2 inch. So we'll get a round rod there. I think a 1/2 inch will do. 1/2 inch off of this surface. Drill a hole. Come up 1/2 inch. And another 1/2 inch. Somewhere around in here, I'm gonna drill me a hole. Insert that rod all the way through the other side and just tack the top edge there. Drill a hole the size of this round stock. This is going to be cut out for the mesh, so I want to kind of give it a little tab here to come around and have a little bit of metal to hold on to there. So I'm going to cut this cut out and we'll try to get the mesh fit in there. Do that. I don't know how far to stick that out. I'll just go with this for now. It's probably way too much. I'm not gonna need probably that much. So I got my tabs in place. I'm gonna get ready to set the welder up and weld them. And that will be the receiver part for the rod that goes in there. Run the rod through. I'm gonna go ahead and tack these on. Well, I'm gonna weld them on, pull the lid off, and then I'll weld the rod in place. And that will double as a hold down for the lid and a hold down for the filter inside there. So we'll get these welded on. I kind of shaped it and cleaned it a little bit and made it as uniform as I could. And you know, you can't see it, but I still want to be, I want it to be consistent and make sure everything looks good. I'm going to powder coat this, so make sure to get all the welds slicked up and looking good. I'll probably paint on some of that OSPO and get rid of the surface rust, because the surfacing tool did its best job, but this kind of pitted a little bit. So hopefully that'll hide when you powder coat it. I'm wondering, now that I look at it and I'm talking outside my head here, if I need to put a little bump, push these up a little bit to accommodate, like, say if I line it up perfect, should I bump it up just a hair to accommodate for a gasket? I'm not sure if I should put it there and squish the gasket completely flat. I may bump it up a little bit. Maybe that's probably about 1/8 of an inch. That'll probably be okay. If not, I'll have to cut these tabs off and redo them, but we'll try that. Let me get them welded on, and let's see what it looks like. So we got the head box complete. I added my latches here, and I put my pins in, and I got a piece of mesh here for the front edge, so it can inhale and gulp some air. It's still a little warm, but I'll take the filter off of here. A little slag in there, of course. So filter slides on. Put a little latch there. Of course, that one got a little bit off, but it's okay. And I got my squeeze on there to create a good little seal. And that's the air box. I'm pretty stoked with that. It curves to the front of the car. As far as road debris goes, it'll be blocked off and protected from that pretty well. It'll suck in a good bit of cold air. And we'll bolt it in. We'll see how it fits, but I know it's going to fit, so I'm not too worried about that. But I just wanted to get this done so I can move on. I got a couple other things I wanted to try to get done this week, and we're well on the way to doing that. So got make a little baby steps, and we'll get it wrapped up here soon enough. But airbox complete. All right, so my next step is, while I had this fender off, I saw this idea somewhere else. That's kind of where all our ideas come from, just somewhere else. So I thought I'd emulate it, and I got this headlight bucket that is the perfect size for a little 4-inch round speaker to go in the kick panel here. So I went ahead and cut the little lip off some of the spots there, so it will kind of match the ribbing here. And all I'm going to do is cut a hole to match the inner part of this. And I'll cut that out of there. That way I can leave that flange and just come through there and weld that on place and be good to go. Now we got a little spot for, got to cover that hole, and I'll weld up a few of those other little holes. But if I leave that flange, I can just seam seal over that once I tack it in. It doesn't need to be completely welded solid. It can be tack welded or spot welded, I guess is what better term for it would be. But that will give me room for a speaker to go in the kick panel here, because in my station wagon I have the ones they protrude out into the compartment, and your leg hits them and can't really hear them anyway because your leg covers the speaker. And I want this car to have a nice stereo, so I'm just kind of making provisions for that to take place in the future. I'm not going to concern myself with it right now, but I just want, while the fender's off and while I'm doing sheet metal work, figured it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and make a provision for some speakers. At least have a plan. Even if I cut the hole and it's seam sealed, I can put the stock kick panel on it, and you'd never know the hole was there. So it's still be a good thing. And these are just recycled old headlight buckets. Like I said, I had another pair, and they fit the bill perfect. They're a little more than 5 inches in diameter, so fit a 4-inch speaker, no problem. So we'll get the hole cut and make a pattern. Cut the hole and go ahead and take those welded in place. Got the air box in place. It fits and fits fine, and clears everything. Clears the hood latch assembly, so I can still pull that and engage and disengage it. I may have to bend these tabs flat because once I get a tire here swinging around, it may catch them. So bend those flat a little bit, and they'll be good to go. Other than that, shoot, this airbox is good. So that allows me to, once I get these in place, go ahead and pull the engine. And I got a little more sheet metal work to do down in there where the header contacts the car. I made this pocket and covered it after I pulled the engine back out the last time. You probably can't see it, but there's a sheet metal brace down there that's added. So I'm going to have to notch it and cut it because I can't fit my V-band tube down in there for the collector. So I've been struggling with that since I really haven't had time to pull the engine out. So we'll pull that out and get some more work done in here, and I'll be able to weld this tube up. I want to go ahead and shorten it a little bit because it's just a little too tight, but that's okay. I can always cut it off. It'll be good to go. I'll cut about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch off of there, and be able to get the cold air and all that on there. So it'll also pull this away. It's touching the radiator fans, and pull it in a little bit. That'll help get that off of there, keep from rubbing. So you want it close and tight, but I don't want it touching. So got to make some adjustments. But moving right along, we'll get started on this. Well, I got the passenger side speaker pod in, and I got the driver's side speaker pod in, and I just unhooked the engine and transmission, unbolted it rather. So I'm going to snatch it out and get to work on the metal fab down there in the firewall. And I'm seeing the end. I think I've said it before, and I'll probably say it again. I know I'm seeing the end of the tunnel for serious metal fabrication. A lot of this little stuff is just little knickknacks and doodads that I've forgotten and neglected to do, or because the body was in place, the fenders and all that. I didn't want to do it, take it apart. But we're in the midst of it. I'm also trying to figure out a way to run a hidden mechanical release from my doors. You got to have something if the battery dies, or if the key fob battery dies, to pop that door open. I want to be able to get in manually, whatever you want to call it, just that way. Because I do have external battery hookups, but even if, like I thought about, if the key fob battery dies, it doesn't matter how much juice you got in the car. If the remote doesn't work, it ain't gonna do it. So I didn't think about it until I saw it at a car show Saturday I went to, and I saw the pull handle under the hood, and I said, that's got to be what that is. Sure enough, that's what it was. So I'm going to hide it somewhere, and I won't tell you guys, but it'll be on the car, and you'll be able to get to the interior without electricity. So motor's ready to go. Let's pull it out. All right, sometimes you got to take a few steps back to make some forward progress. Went ahead and notched the holes here in the frame It's more of a cover. It's just sheet metal. I'm going to fill that in. I'm going to put the engine back in first and hook the exhaust up and make sure that the V-bands will clear that, and then I'll fill that in with sheet metal. Just want to make sure I don't have to trim any more back, and get that done. And we'll also take care of this and weld all that up, and I'll weld those studs there and cut the bolts off so you can't see those. The whole theme here is no bolts, so everything's hidden. So far, it's pretty easy to get to. It's not a big deal. You got a bolt fender from the bottom. I got the little cover made that you can see right here where the bolts go. That's what covers these guys here. Little shock top cover, and brake lines hidden, wires hidden, all the stuff's under the car. So I did quite a bit of work today, so I'm pretty happy with what I got going on, what I got so far, and hopefully we can knock this out tomorrow and get the engine back in and start. I think I'm going to put the real assembled engine back in it, and that way I can get everything wired up, complete, and maybe even try to crank it at some point in the near future. So probably go ahead and do that and just stick this one on the engine stand and be done with it. So get a lot of stuff transferred over, the accessory drive and things of that nature, and should be pretty close. So we'll just have to keep getting after it. So I appreciate you guys watching Big Lake Hot Rods. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and do all those things you're supposed to do on YouTube. It's some sort of a new button. That's the hype button. I was trying to like a video the other night and saw that. So I don't really know how many points you get. I don't know what it means. So give me some hype and give me some points. So try that. I don't know. Anyway, get out there in your garage and get after it, y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks a lot.